So here it is, 2020, Manny Diaz, right in the middle of his tenure, number 11 class, according to 247. We see the transfer rank. We're just dealing with the high school signees. And here we go from the top.
My guy, Donald Chaney Jr. Yeah, my guy, Donald Chaney Jr. from Belen Jesuit, the best running back in Dade County that year. I know people were talking about Henry Parrish from Columbus, but, Miami did well there. Battled some injuries and inconsistency. He was down against Georgia Tech. It was clear as freaking day, but whatever. But overall, I would say average career here. Return on investment in terms of recruiting, resources, I would say probably a little underwater on that just because he didn't really have that big of an impact. But that was a big recruiting win at the time to get him. Best year as a freshman. And then 2 years basically missed with injury. Comes back in 23, has a solid year, transfers to Louisville. He was fine, but nothing special.
Next up, we've got Chance Williams.
Chance Williams, the defensive end. Yeah, he another good get in this class. He and his teammate, who we'll see later on this list. But like Donald Chaney Jr., didn't really do too much here at the University of Miami. Another one where I think that the resources kind of outweighed the production from him and everything. Ended up transferring to UCF and did okay, I believe, or did pretty well. Oh, Charlotte. Excuse me, that's where he went. Rotational guy, for 3 years. And then, played fairly well. 7 TFLs and 4 sacks for Charlotte. Decent. But, for a 4-star at the top of your list from the state of Florida, you expect more. Like, just plain and simple with that. Next, Avante Williams. This is the name I was trying to find the other week. Cousin of Lorenzo Lingard. Famously chose Miami over Florida. They had Tay Day with the orange and blue cookie cake and all kinds of stuff where they were preparing to celebrate him picking Florida. And he did no such thing. Paulo in the chat thought Avante Williams was going to be the next great safety. You and I both. Slow Down Boy 7 was his Twitter account because he was very, very fast, which was and why I was trying to recall him, because he's a player who was known for his speed. And he was. He played well, if I remember correctly. He started well as a freshman, had interception, and then rotationally as a sophomore, and then transferred out. Went to Maryland, played a handful of games, and nothing since then. So another one that, big win on the trail, big loss for the fact that he didn't do much on the roster. So the top 3 on here, big wins, didn't really get anything. Jalen Knighton from Deerfield Beach, one of 2 Broward County backs ever to run for more than 5,000 yards in their career, being him and Tyrone Moss from Pompano Beach, Ely. God rest his soul. Huge win again, and did really well to start with, but struggled with consistency, struggled with off the field issues and things like that continue to get him suspended. And then left to, as everybody knows, SMU, where he really stood out in 23, and then basically did nothing in 24 because Brashard Smith was there and was the better version of Jalen Knighton from, as a speed back, as a receiver out of the backfield, as everything. And he was good in the rotational role at Miami, especially in 21. I wanted a little bit more from him. That's just kind of the story of the class.
So Cam, for especially the 2 running backs, because it's easy to go, okay, stats, that's who they are, running backs. Those are nice little careers if they're 3 stars, if they're high 3 stars. But at this place on the board, those are pretty disappointing returns.
Yeah, I mean, those are both top 5 players in this class. Jalen Knighton, 5,000 career yards rushing in high school. Again, one of only 2 Broward County backs ever to do that. Like, you're expecting superstar stuff, and we just didn't get it. Jalen Rivers, the teammate of Chance Williams from Orange Park Oakleaf. Yeah, that's a win. It was a big win to get him and his teammate. And this is somebody who played here, was here for 5 years, came in, he was listed as a guard, played guard and played tackle, didn't really test well athletically at the combine, and in comparison to tackles was really on the 40th percentile, so not great. I think that he profiles as a guard at the next level, but was able to be flexible and versatile here at the University of Miami. And I think that we got out of him everything that was there to get out of him. So that's a win, definitely, and a great recruit get. Marcus Clark from Winter Park. Yeah, that's an L. 4-star, quote unquote, defensive back who didn't really do anything. I mean, he played well in 21 as a rotational guy, but then he leaves and he goes to Missouri and was a rotational guy there. And yeah, but you just, again, we're still in the top handful, well, outside, we're top 7 guys in recruiting class. You're not expecting a guy at the top of your recruiting class to do basically nothing here and then transfer out somewhere else. Just putting it like it is. And that's really what we got from Marcus Clark. So yeah, that's another L. Chi-Town Kane, interesting. Keyshawn Smith, my dude, they went back and bumped up his rating after this cycle because, rare at the end. But from San Diego Lincoln, he was he was going to go somewhere and then drop that commitment and flip to Miami and flew cross country the Monday before the end of registration, showed up bright and early at the registrar's office at 7 a.m. that Tuesday, registered on the last day you could for spring and everything. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown as well. In 21, stepped into a bigger role. Obviously, you see the numbers there. Cool. I was really, expecting some stuff. Battled a couple injuries, but 22 obviously fell off. And then, like so many, was one of those SMU Hurricanes, transferred to SMU, went to Dallas, and fashioned himself 2 really good years as a number 3-4 option. So yeah, would have liked a little bit more, but in the end, for somebody who was a high 3-star, low 4-star at the end of the high school recruiting cycle, I think that he delivered overall what was there to be delivered. I think that would have liked more of that to have been at the University of Miami. Michael Redding III, the very, very smart guy who wanted to do aerospace engineering. So I believe his final 2 were Purdue and Miami, specifically for that program, but never really fashioned himself into a player at the University of Miami. You see the stats there. 2022, 15 catches for 217 and a tud was basically the entirety of his production. And then I believe he had to medically retire because of a neck issue. So yeah, that's another 4-star who didn't really live up to it and was an All-American and everything. So yeah, man, not super great. As we continue, Isaiah Dunson, big corner from Georgia, played rotationally, had a knee and then knee injury and then left. Again, another 4-star. This is the annual late cycle 4-star flip, I believe. I mean, you're talking, what's that? 15, 20 games, the 14 tackles in 20 games at Miami. Oh, there is the second line there. Yeah. As I was doing and 1 PBU, for a 4-star, buddy, what are we talking about? Transfers to Baylor and then does basically nothing, and then didn't even play or isn't listed as having a stat anywhere last year. Yep, that's another major L. So don't love that. Jalen Harrell from Champagnat, the safety, not the wide receiver of the same name. He's another guy who was a big get, 6'2", 180. You would have thought that he was going to work his way into the rotation at defensive back and did no such thing. 7 games, 4 tackles in Miami, and then transferred to UMass, where he actually had a pretty decent year last year in 8 games. I don't know if he got injured. I don't know anything else for only why he played in only 8 games. But yeah, if you're going and playing at the likes of UMass, leaving from Miami, that speaks to the lack of quality, which then speaks to the negative return on investment from a 4-star recruit. Elijah Roberts, one of the many, many SMU Hurricanes, started here, got injured, didn't really work his way up to the top of the rotation, had like shoulder issues that were nagging, transfers there, and I believe it was like first team all conference this past year. And like you just see the numbers when he got to SMU explode. 37 tackles, 13 TFLs, 10 sacks in 23, 11 TFLs, 7.5 sacks this year, like 2 forced fumbles each year. Like, yeah, this is a guy who, finally was able to tap into his talent, getting healthy. It just so happened to be somewhere else. So again, like, I think that the last 2 years is more indicative of the talent that he had and what we wanted and hoped for from Elijah Roberts. It just happened wearing another team's jersey. So again, good career in the end once he finally got healthy, good output. And I mean, yeah, like first, second team all conference. Love that for him. Would have loved it if it was at Miami. Brian Balaam, my former student from my last year teaching at Miramar. As y'all know, he was in my study hall as an IB kid and also taught his brother years prior. Was thrust into action as a true freshman at Clemson when somebody got ejected from a game in 2020. And yeah, that was like the most that he played on specials and everything. And then was just kind of like a fringe special teams, good roster kind of a guy. Would have liked to have more from him. But he was a little limited athletically, truthfully. And I think that kind of showed itself to be true. And, then you have 28 games and fewer than that number of tackles. I believe he got a University of Miami degree, which is what he always, like from the first time I met him, what he wanted. So, I think it's great. And again, I have the personal connection to him, so love seeing that on the football field. Left something to be desired. Tyreek Austin Cave, the linebacker from New Jersey, came down, played a handful of snaps, I believe, and then immediately transferred back up north somewhere. A decent get in the recruiting world, but wasn't a world beater or anything. Excuse me. Yeah, here for 2 years, West Virginia for 2, and then New Mexico, and basically didn't play in his last 2 years. So, again, the output of recruiting resources far outweighed the return. Quentin Williams was here for a year and then left, went to Marshall, I believe. Another, and his dad was a big Miami Hurricane fan, and I remember when he committed, and everything, he was talking about being so happy that his son was going to Miami and all that stuff, but he didn't ever do anything. So, yeah.
And apparently never played anywhere else, according to his stat line here.
I know he transferred to Marshall. He might not have played, but that is where he went. I definitely remember seeing that on social. So yeah. But again, and he didn't even record a stat, guys. Chris Washington, who was a big tight end / tackle, tight end turn tackle from Nashville, came here as a developmental guy who never developed. He didn't have the range to play here, and left. I'm not mad at the take with, a guy down towards the bottom of the class as a developmental tackle when you come in at 6'7", 270. But he didn't get to where he needed to be able to play. Dominic Mammarelli from Naples, the tight end, who was on the roster for a few years. He was more of a blocking tight end than anything else. Had a long touchdown his senior year because basically the Red Sea parted on a fake toss, fake dive, and he just split the middle of the defense. But he was never a real athletic pass catcher along that route. His family are big Miami people, so that's why he committed. And then I thought he transferred somewhere else, but if he did, I don't know that he played all that much when he did.
This is an all-time stat line here, Cam. 1 career reception, -2.
That's about the size of it. So might have, yeah, that's about it. So not really much to say. So yeah. Daz Worsham had a hip injury after a record-setting career at Hewitt Trustville. Bounced around, didn't really break through on the roster, and then transferred somewhere else. I don't know if he played even when he went somewhere else, but yeah. Anyway, the quarterback in this class, Tyler Van Dyke, Suffield Academy in Suffield, Connecticut. Baseball player of the year, football player of the year. Was usurped for the backup quarterback role in 21 by Jake Garcia, who promptly broke his ankle in the game against Central Connecticut and then stepped in and was ACC Rookie of the Year in that year. Had that run of 300-yard passing games with multiple touchdowns. Rhett Lashley got everything out of him in 2021, man. I mean, just you look at the numbers there. That's what you want. That's what you need. That's what you love. In 22, battled injury and some inconsistency, and then 23 had his career high comp percentage, but also completed way more passes to players wearing other teams' jerseys. And even with completing 66% of his passes, he missed so many dudes, man. Like there were guys, it was so frustrating. And yeah, that unfortunately was the story of Tyler. He transferred out because his time was gone for sure, or done here in Miami. Went to Wisconsin, played a couple games, and then tore his ACL, and has now subsequently transferred to SMU, where Rhett Lashley is talking about getting him right for the next step next year. I don't know what that would be, whether that would be transferring somewhere else or whatnot, but yeah. And then this is the game log from 21 for Tyler Van Dyke. The North Carolina game, that was real. I mean, the Virginia game, that was tough. North Carolina, I mean, I'll always just see that last interception on the last drive, just up the seam, with the receiver not even looking, throwing right at the safety. But after that, 325. I mean, torched. I mean, just on fire. Man, like look at the rest of that season.
Look at those yardage totals.
Yeah, 325, 426, 389, 316, 357, 381, 433, 433. I mean, 20 touchdowns against 3 interceptions, and just I mean, man, he was on it. And after that was never that dude ever again. So even though that wasn't the start of a meteoric rise for Tyler Van Dyke, for a 3-star from Connecticut, as the quarterback in the class and everything, that fine, you got to take recruiting number 1. I think that it was slightly above average return on investment, because you never thought, I mean, you thought maybe Tyler Van Dyke in year 3 or year 4 would challenge for potentially be the starting quarterback. You never thought that in year 2 he was going to be ACC Rookie of the Year as a redshirt freshman. That was on nobody's radar. So you got that. You got a couple other moments and things. It wasn't perfect, but I think that we got more out of him than we thought we were going to. Keyshawn Washington, what's up, Kenson? Yes, you are late, but it's okay. Just hop on the YouTube, bro. You can see the replay, the other videos I've done. There was one that was up today. There's one that's going up tomorrow, and some other ones as well. So be sure you do that. Chris Bradford TVD was a 4-star composite. I believe maybe he was, especially after he was Connecticut Player of the Year. You might be right about that. Keyshawn Washington is from South Dade. Billed as a big safety and everything, but he never really amounted to be anything here at the University of Miami. The most notable thing about him were his fantastic dreads, which you can even see in the thumbnail right there. But yeah, he never was part of any conversation, really, even. He struggled to even find his way onto the special teams full-time. That about says it. Skipping to the very bottom, Corey Flagg, the linebacker, played a an integral role, limited athletically, incredible instincts, made some plays here and there when used appropriately. Most famously, the game-winning tackle in overtime against Clemson when Cade Klubnik could have, maybe should have, given the dive, kept the ball. Corey Flagg scraped over the top. He's right there making that play. And this is a guy, who, in 4 years at Miami, played in 43 games, 179 tackles, 24 TFLs, 5.5 sacks. That's solid. It's not perfect, but like that's a pretty good return for the guy listed at the bottom of your recruiting class. Like I would say that you actually you did your big one with that one. He's not the biggest superstar in the world. He's not the biggest physical player. Ended up transferring out to Missouri because he was not going to play here in 24, and had a very good year at Missouri. A Missouri team that was top 10 for most of the year. 81 tackles, 5 TFLs, a sack, a pick that he took back 80 yards. Like,
considering the recruiting position, that's a great career.
That's a really great career for his recruiting position. Exactly. So, I would say that that's one of the biggest recruiting wins in that class. And I did save the best recruiting win of the year for last. All-time career leading receiver in terms of receptions and yards from Deerfield Beach, where he transferred after leaving St. Thomas Aquinas because St. Thomas Aquinas does not afford the ability to enroll early because of the senior year religion credit. Number 7, Xavier Restrepo. This is a kid who always wanted to be a Hurricane. This is a kid who came in and did any and everything. He played on specials. He played receiver. I felt at times that we were trying to force feed him the ball too much. Tyler Van Dyke famously was roommates with Restrepo early on in their time in college. And, I even said that and everything. But looking back, God darn, we should have fed him the ball more. I mean, I don't know that there is, in any of the classes that we reviewed in these last 3 weeks, there has not been as big a recruiting win as Xavier Restrepo to the University of Miami. Again, career all-time leader in receptions and yards at the University of Miami. From a 3-star, 5'8.5", 5'9", stocky wide receiver. If that's not a recruiting win and getting this, rewriting the record book, you know what I mean? If that's not a recruiting win, I don't know what is. So, I wanted to leave that to last because, and he was the consummate Hurricane, consummate teammate, did any and everything. He had the lead block on the Brashard Smith kickoff return touchdown. He's, hustling after guys on interceptions. He's a willing blocker on, screens and in the run game and just in the community, has a foundation of his own now, is in Iron Arrow, which is the highest honor you can achieve at the University of Miami. I believe Jalen Rivers has also been inducted into Iron Arrow. Yes, I'm still salty. I'm not an Iron Arrow, but hey, whatever. But he is, and that's a credit to him. Scholarship, leadership, and sportsmanship. I cannot say enough positive things about Xavier Restrepo as a person, as a player, and in terms of the return on investment in recruiting as we're reevaluating these classes from previous years. This is the number one of all of them that we've done so far. And far and away from this class, the best career of any of those players.
You're a recruiting guy. The stars, the rankings in total, in mass, mean a lot. But here is a class where by far and away, it's not even debatable. Nobody could even argue. The best player by far is the 22nd out of 23rd. And then on top of that, the next 2 guys are almost indisputable in some order, Corey Flagg and Tyler Van Dyke. And they're in the bottom.
And Jalen Rivers. I would put him in the conversation.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jalen Rivers.
But I mean, outside of that,
3 or 4.
Right. Yeah. So 3 of your top 4 are like bottom third of this recruiting class, which great on them, but also highlights the failings from recruitment and development from, when we've gotten some of these dudes that teams want. Like, Don Chaney Jr., teams wanted him. Chance Williams, Jalen Knighton, Like, there are a lot of dudes. Elijah Roberts, you know, and I know that he, battled injury and did well elsewhere, but like, you know, not getting as many like stars and superstars as you really need from a recruiting class. So I forget, it was in the chat. Someone was like, "Oh my God, this class was atrocious." As we're running down, I'm like, in hindsight, their performance in college left a lot to be desired. But it was a fun walk down memory lane. I appreciate you guys sticking over a little extra to do that, with me and Mark here. And yeah, we're just going to leave it there.